The helicopter is already sinking when the white dog jumps. Staff Sergeant Isaiah Brooks hears the words through the wind, but for one stunned second, he cannot understand them. The Atlantic stretches around the rescue vessel like hammered steel, dark beneath a ceiling of low November clouds. Rain needles the deck. Salt stings his eyes. Somewhere beyond the rail, a warning horn groans through the fog, long and hollow, while red emergency lights sweep across the waves and vanish inside them. 50 yards off the port side, the damaged helicopter lists in the water, its tail angled toward the sky, its cabin sinking inch by inch beneath the cold gray surface. Aviation fuel paints a faint rainbow over the swells. Loose equipment drifts nearby like pieces of a life interrupted. 3 Marines have already been pulled aboard. They sit wrapped in silver blankets, coughing seawater and staring back at the wreck as though part of them is still trapped inside. Captain Daniel Mercer keeps trying to stand, but a corpsman presses him gently down. "We're missing one," Mercer says. His voice is nearly swallowed by the wind. Owen was in the rear. Isaiah turns toward the rescue crew. The inflatable boat is being lowered, its ropes snapping tight as the vessel rises and falls. Gunnery Sergeant Marcus Reed shouts instructions over the storm. Every movement is practiced. Every hand knows its task. But the sea does not care about training. It rolls beneath them with the slow strength of something ancient, lifting the sinking aircraft and lowering it again. Then Isaiah hears the barking. One sharp sound. Not fear. Not confusion. A warning. He looks toward the K9 station beside the aft rail. The gate hangs open. Ghost is gone. For half a heartbeat, Isaiah sees nothing but rain and white foam. Then a pale shape rises between 2 swells. Ghost's white head breaks the surface, ears flattened, amber eyes fixed on the helicopter. His thick coat has turned gray with seawater. The current pushes him sideways, but he corrects without hesitation and keeps swimming away from the ship. Ghost! Isaiah grips the rail so hard his knuckles ache. Come back. The dog hears him. Isaiah knows he does because Ghost turns his head. Just once. Across the distance, their eyes meet through the rain. Isaiah sees no panic in him. No wild instinct to escape. Only purpose. Then Ghost faces the wreck again and drives forward, paws cutting through the black water. He's heading for the helicopter, Marcus says. Why would he do that? Isaiah has no answer. The sensible thing would be for Ghost to return to the vessel, to follow the familiar voice, to choose warmth and safety. But Ghost has never chosen safety when someone else is still in danger. A wave rises between them, tall enough to hide the dog completely. Isaiah stops breathing. The crest folds over in a rush of white water. For one terrible moment, Ghost does not reappear. Rain clicks against the metal deck. The helicopter settles lower. Somewhere below, a piece of equipment shifts with a dull metallic sound. Isaiah's chest tightens around an old memory he has spent years trying not to name. Another gray morning, another stretch of freezing water, another friend who had waited for help that came too late. Not again, he thinks. The words do not leave his mouth. They sit behind his ribs like a prayer too heavy to speak. Then Ghost surfaces on the far side of the wave. He is closer now, less than 20 yards from the aircraft. Something silver flashes at his throat whenever the emergency lights pass over him. The old identification tag. Caleb Warren's tag. Isaiah had fastened it to Ghost's collar 3 months earlier, believing the dead deserved to remain close to the living. Now it gleams above the water like a tiny signal. The rescue boat strikes the sea, and Marcus motions Isaiah aboard. Before Isaiah can move, Ghost suddenly changes direction. He does not swim toward the open cabin door. He circles the rear section, nose low against the surface, searching, listening. The helicopter groans as trapped air escapes from somewhere inside. Ghost freezes in the water. His head lifts. His body becomes perfectly still despite the waves moving around him. Then the sound comes. Faint, almost lost beneath the wind. 3 knocks from inside the sinking aircraft. A pause. Then 3 more. Ghost looks back at Isaiah. In that instant, Isaiah understands the terrible truth. The dog is not swimming toward the helicopter because he needs to be saved. He is swimming toward someone the sea has not taken yet. Isaiah is already moving before Marcus finishes lowering the rescue ladder. His boots strike the wet deck, heavy and precise, while the vessel rolls beneath him. The sea rises, drops, and rises again, carrying the helicopter lower each time. Ghost remains near the rear section, circling in a tight path as if he can feel the sound traveling through the metal. 3 knocks. Silence. 3 more. Isaiah reaches the inflatable boat and grips the side rope. Marcus climbs in beside him, followed by Petty Officer Nolan Hayes, the rescue swimmer assigned to the exercise that morning. None of them speaks about what they have just heard. There is no time to name hope. Hope can make a man careless. Training keeps his hand steady. The boat motor catches with a low roar, and they pull away from the vessel into the rain. Every foot between Isaiah and the sinking aircraft feels longer than the last. Ghost turns toward them, then back toward the wreck, refusing to leave his position. Stay with him, Isaiah says. Marcus understands. He guides the boat along the helicopter's tail while Nolan prepares a breathing mask and a safety line. The cold is sharper near the water. It climbs through Isaiah's gloves and settles in his fingers. He can smell fuel, salt, wet rubber, and the faint metallic scent of the aircraft cooling in the sea. The helicopter shifts. Its tail dips several inches. Ghost barks once. Isaiah looks at the dog and sees the old silver tag flashing against his throat. 3 months earlier, Ghost had arrived at Camp Lejeune in the back of a transport vehicle at dawn. He had stepped down without hesitation, a large white German shepherd with a quiet gaze and a coat so pale it seemed almost blue beneath the winter sky. He carried no toy. He showed no interest in the other dogs. He simply stood beside the handler who had brought him and watched the base wake around him. Isaiah had been told only the necessary facts. 6 years old. Fully certified. Search and rescue trained. Excellent. Health. Previous handler deceased. That last line had been delivered in the same flat tone as the others, but Isaiah had felt it land differently. Master Sergeant Caleb Warren had not been only Ghost's handler. Caleb had been Isaiah's closest friend. Years earlier, during a coastal training accident off Virginia, Caleb had become trapped below deck inside a damaged transport craft. Isaiah had been part of the rescue team. He had reached the outer hatch, but the flooding had worsened, and the order came to pull back. Isaiah obeyed. He had lived with that obedience ever since. Ghost had survived because he had been ashore that day. No one had known how to explain the loss to a dog. Perhaps no one needed to. Ghost had waited beside Caleb's empty gear locker for 6 hours. When Isaiah first saw him at Camp Lejeune, the dog did not approach. He only stared at Isaiah's hands, then at the old silver identification tag hanging from Isaiah's neck. Caleb's tag. Isaiah had carried it for years beneath his uniform, a small weight over his heart. That morning, he had removed it and fastened it carefully to Ghost's collar. "This belongs with you," he had said. Ghost had sniffed the metal once. Then he sat beside Isaiah and did not move. Their bond had begun without affection, without ceremony, and without trust. Trust came later in quiet pieces. Ghost learned the sound of Isaiah's footsteps in the barracks hallway. Isaiah learned that the dog slept near doors, but never directly in front of them. Ghost learned to place his head against Isaiah's knee when old memories tightened his breathing. Isaiah learned that Ghost rarely barked unless the sound mattered. But there was one thing he never understood. 3 knocks. Whenever metal was struck 3 times in succession, Ghost became completely alert. During equipment checks, he would rise before anyone called his name. During training, he would turn toward the sound even from hundreds of feet away. Isaiah assumed it was an old command Caleb had taught him, but the meaning had been lost with the man. Now, beside the sinking helicopter, the meaning has returned. Ghost paused at the water near the rear cabin door. Isaiah leans over the edge of the boat and strikes the helicopter's outer frame 3 times with the handle of a rescue tool. The sound travels through the hull. For a moment, there is nothing. Then 3 weak knocks answer from inside. Nolan looks at Isaiah. He is in an air pocket. Isaiah nods, though his throat has tightened. The helicopter settles another inch. Water curls over the rear window. Ghost presses closer to the metal, keeping his nose above the surface. "We have one chance," Marcus says. Isaiah fastens the safety line around his waist. He looks at Ghost, then at the dark water covering the cabin door. The past is standing beside him again, wearing a different face and asking the same question. This time, Isaiah does not wait for an order. He lowers himself into the Atlantic and feels the cold close around his chest. Before he goes under, he places one hand briefly against Ghost's wet neck. The silver tag is cold beneath his fingers. "Stay with me," he says. Ghost holds his gaze. Then Isaiah takes one breath and disappears below the surface. The cold takes hold of Isaiah at once. It presses through his suit, tightens around his arms, and turns every movement into work. Beneath the surface, the storm becomes distant. The wind disappears. The voices vanish. Only the low groan of metal remains, carried through the water like something alive. Isaiah opens his eyes behind the mask and sees the helicopter tilted below him, its rear section fading into green-gray darkness. Red emergency lights flicker weakly inside the cabin, turning the water around the windows the color of fading embers. His safety line pulls gently at his waist. Above him, Marcus keeps the inflatable boat steady. Nolan waits near the doorway with the second line. Ghost swims beside Isaiah, his white coat moving like pale smoke beneath the surface. The dog does not panic. He does not waste strength. He follows the outer frame of the aircraft until he reaches the rear cabin door, then touches it with one paw. Isaiah sees the silver tag drift from Ghost's collar and strike the metal once. The sound is small, but the dog becomes still. Isaiah reaches the handle and pulls. Nothing moves. Pressure holds the door shut. He braces one boot against the frame and tries again, but the helicopter shifts under him, sinking another few inches. A stream of bubbles escapes from a damaged seal and rushes past his mask. Isaiah pulls away before the aircraft can catch the line. Ghost rises for air. Isaiah follows. They break the surface beside the boat. Rain immediately finds his face. Marcus leans down. Door is sealed. Isaiah removes the mouthpiece long enough to speak. We need the emergency release. Nolan points toward the forward side of the cabin. External panel should be 6 feet ahead, below the window. Isaiah looks at the sinking aircraft. The water has nearly covered the rear glass. Inside, Corporal Owen Price has less room with every passing second. The name brings back the hours before the crash, when the morning had still felt ordinary. Owen had arrived at the flight line carrying 2 equipment cases and a paper cup of coffee he had forgotten to drink. He was 24, narrow-shouldered, quick to smile, and always speaking just a little too fast when officers were nearby. "Good morning, Staff Sergeant," he had said, shifting both cases into one hand so he could salute properly. Isaiah had returned the salute and nodded toward the untouched cup. "You planning to drink that or carry it across North Carolina?" Owen had glanced down as though surprised to find it there. "I was hoping it would make me look experienced." "It makes you look tired." "That was my second choice." Ghost had been sitting beside Isaiah, calm and watchful in the pale light before sunrise. Owen crouched several feet away, careful not to reach toward him without permission. "Is he friendly?" "He is professional." "That sounds like a no." For the first time that morning, Isaiah had almost smiled. He gave Ghost the release word, and the dog stepped forward. Owen held out the back of his hand. Ghost sniffed it, then looked up at the young Marine's face. "He is incredible," Owen whispered. "I have never seen a white German shepherd this close." Ghost remained quiet until Owen set down one of the equipment cases. The metal latch struck the concrete 3 times. Ghost rose immediately. His ears sharpened. His eyes locked on the case. Owen noticed. "Did I do something wrong?" Isaiah shook his head. "He knows that sound." "What does it mean?" "I do not know yet." Owen studied Ghost for a moment, then gently tapped the case 3 more times. The dog took one step toward him and stopped, waiting. Owen's expression softened. Maybe it means somebody needs him. The words had seemed harmless then, just another observation spoken before a routine exercise. Now, floating beside a sinking helicopter, Isaiah feels them return with painful clarity. Somebody needs him. He replaces the mouthpiece and goes under again. Ghost follows without command. They move along the aircraft until Isaiah finds the external release panel beneath the side window. It is partially covered by water and bent along one edge. He grips the handle and pulls. It resists. He pulls harder. The panel opens, revealing a recessed lever. Isaiah turns it. Nothing happens. He tries again, using both hands. The lever shifts halfway, then stops. Inside the aircraft, a shadow moves behind the clouded glass. A hand appears. It presses weakly against the window. Owen. His face is pale beneath the red emergency light, but his eyes are open. He lifts one fist and strikes the inside wall 3 times. Ghost jerks toward the sound and places both front paws against the cabin. Isaiah raises one finger, telling Owen to wait, though he knows the young Marine may not see him clearly. The aircraft tilts farther. The remaining air inside slides toward the rear ceiling. Isaiah grips the release lever and braces his feet against the frame. His lungs begin to ache. The metal refuses to move. Then Ghost dives beneath his arm and pushes against the loose edge of the panel with his shoulder. It is not enough to open the door, but it gives Isaiah the fraction of space he needs. He pulls once more. The lever drops. A dull vibration passes through the frame. The rear door opens 2 inches, releasing a sudden stream of bubbles. Isaiah catches the edge before it can close again. Above him, the safety line tightens as Marcus and Nolan begin to pull. Isaiah looks through the narrow opening and sees Owen trapped in the last pocket of air, one hand holding a seat strap, the other resting against the wall. Between them is less than a foot of water and a door that may open only once. Isaiah holds the door with both hands while the helicopter settles deeper beneath him. The opening is narrow, barely wide enough for a shoulder, and the pressure of the water pushes against it with steady force. Owen watches from the shrinking air pocket, his face close to the ceiling, his breath quick but controlled. Isaiah points toward the opening, then toward Owen's safety harness. Owen understands. He reaches down through the rising water and works at the buckle, but his fingers slip. The red emergency light flickers once, then dims. Ghost remains pressed beside the door, one paw against the frame, his body moving with the current. The silver tag at his collar taps softly against the metal. Isaiah hears nothing clearly beneath the water, but he feels each vibration through his gloves. He shifts his grip and pulls the door another inch. It opens, then jerks back. A loose strap catches along the lower hinge. Isaiah sees it immediately. The same orange restraint Owen had been wearing before takeoff is twisted around the frame, holding the door in place. He reaches for it, but the angle is wrong. His lungs begin to burn. He rises toward the surface, one hand still on the door, and Ghost follows. When Isaiah breaks into the rain, he drags in air and shouts toward the boat. The strap is caught in the hinge. Nolan leans over the side with a compact rescue cutter. "Take this." Isaiah reaches for it, but a wave lifts the boat away and then drops it hard. The tool slips from Nolan's hand. For a second, it floats between them, bright yellow against the dark water. Ghost turns instantly. Before the current can carry it beneath the helicopter, he swims toward it, closes his teeth around the handle, and brings it back. Isaiah takes the cutter from him and places one hand against the dog's head. "Good boy." The words are quiet, almost lost in the storm, but Ghost's eyes remain on him. Isaiah dives again. The world below has grown darker. The tail of the helicopter is now almost level with the surface, and the rear cabin has dropped several feet. Owen's air pocket is smaller. His shoulders are pressed near the ceiling. Isaiah reaches the trapped strap and slides the cutter beneath it. The material is thick and swollen with water. He works slowly, careful not to lose the tool. One cut, then another. The strap begins to separate. Inside, Owen grips the overhead handle and watches. His mouth moves, but Isaiah cannot hear the words. Perhaps he is praying. Perhaps he is counting. Perhaps he is simply reminding himself that someone has found him. The strap finally gives way. The door swings open with sudden force, and a rush of water moves through the cabin. Isaiah catches the frame and reaches inside. Owen releases the handle, but another line still holds him near the seat. Isaiah points to the buckle. Owen shakes his head. It will not move. Nolan enters the water beside them and takes hold of the door while Isaiah squeezes into the opening. The cabin is tilted sharply, filled with floating papers, loose straps, and the pale glow of failing lights. Owen's face is inches from the last pocket of air. Isaiah rises into it beside him. The space is so small their helmets nearly touch. Owen gasps when he recognizes him. "Staff Sergeant. Save your breath. I thought nobody heard me." Isaiah looks toward the wall where Owen's knuckles had struck the metal. "Ghost heard you." Owen closes his eyes for half a second. Then the aircraft shifts again, and the remaining air trembles around them. Isaiah finds the second restraint running across Owen's waist. The buckle is bent, but not locked. He works it with both hands. Owen tries to help, but Isaiah stops him. "Stay still. I can move my legs." "Good. You will need them." Outside the opening, Ghost circles once, then returns to the same position. He keeps his nose near the surface and his body aligned with the door. Marcus holds the inflatable boat in place while Nolan maintains the safety line. The sea pulls at all of them. The storm has become a single unbroken sound. Owen looks at Isaiah through the dim red light. Are we going to make it? Isaiah does not offer a promise he cannot guarantee. We are leaving together. The buckle shifts. Isaiah turns it farther. It opens. Owen's body rises slightly in the water, free from the seat. Isaiah places the breathing mouthpiece against Owen's lips and waits until he takes one steady breath. Then he guides him down from the air pocket and toward the open door. Owen reaches the threshold, but the helicopter rolls several degrees. A storage case slides across the cabin and catches against the opening. Nolan pushes from outside. Isaiah pulls from within. Ghost begins barking above the water, each sound sharp and urgent. The aircraft is moving again. Isaiah braces his shoulder against the case and forces it aside. Owen slips through the opening into Nolan's arms. The safety line tightens, carrying them toward the surface. Isaiah follows, but before he clears the doorway, the helicopter tilts once more and a loose cable wraps around his ankle. He stops cold. Above him, Owen is rising toward air. Beside the frame, Ghost turns back and sees Isaiah is no longer following. The cable tightens around Isaiah's ankle as the helicopter sinks another foot. For one suspended second, he is held between the open cabin and the dark water below, one hand gripping the frame, the other reaching toward the line around his boot. Above him, Nolan and Owen rise toward the surface. Ghost remains beside the doorway, his white shape clear even in the murky water, his eyes fixed on Isaiah. The dog does not leave. Isaiah twists his leg, but the cable only draws tighter. His lungs ache. The rescue cutter is no longer in his hand. It floats several feet away, slowly turning in the current. Ghost sees it. He looks once at Isaiah, then pushes away from the frame and swims toward the yellow handle. The movement is calm, almost deliberate. Isaiah feels the helicopter tilt beneath him. A low vibration passes through the cabin. The remaining air escapes in a silver stream. He pulls again at the cable, but it catches beneath the edge of the seat frame. Above the surface, Marcus shouts into the rain. Where is Brooks? Nolan reaches the boat with Owen held against his chest. He is still below. Owen coughs, pulls in a breath, and turns toward the wreck. Ghost went back. Marcus secures Owen to the side rope and looks down into the water. He can see only the weak glow of emergency lights and the pale blur of the dog moving beneath them. Isaiah, he calls, though the sea carries the name away. Below, Ghost closes his mouth around the cutter and returns. He cannot place it in Isaiah's hand while swimming, so he presses the handle against Isaiah's wrist. Isaiah catches it and brings the blade to the cable. His first cut slips. The second catches. The cable is made of braided material, tough enough to withstand years of use, but the edge begins to separate. Ghost places both front paws against the frame and holds his body steady in the current. Isaiah works the blade back and forth. The helicopter rolls again. The doorway narrows as the aircraft settles at a steeper angle. Isaiah can feel the sea drawing it down, slow and certain. He cuts once more. The cable breaks. His leg comes free, but the sudden release sends him backward. His shoulder strikes the outer frame lightly, and the cutter leaves his hand. Ghost moves beside him at once. Isaiah reaches for the dog's harness, and together they rise. The surface appears as a trembling sheet of gray light. Isaiah kicks toward it. Ghost swims beside him, close enough that Isaiah can feel the dog's coat brush his arm. They break through beneath a hard burst of rain. Isaiah pulls in air, coughing once as the cold wind strikes his face. Here, Marcus shouts. The inflatable boat is less than 15 feet away, but the current is carrying Isaiah and Ghost toward the rear of the aircraft. Nolan throws a line. It lands short. Isaiah swims toward it, but the helicopter shifts behind him with a deep metallic groan. Ghost turns. The silver tag at his neck flashes in the red light. Isaiah sees the dog's ears lift. From inside the cabin comes another sound. Not 3 knocks this time. A thin electronic tone, rising and falling beneath the water. Ghost begins swimming back toward the helicopter. No, Isaiah says. His voice is rough. Ghost, leave it. The dog slows, but does not return. He looks toward the wreck, then toward Owen in the boat. Owen is wrapped in a flotation blanket, breathing hard, one hand gripping the side rope. There is nobody else, Owen calls. The cabin was empty. Ghost continues to watch the sinking aircraft. Isaiah understands before the others do. Ghost is not hearing a person. He is hearing the emergency locator beacon mounted near the rear section, the same tone used during search training. To him, the signal means the mission is not complete. The helicopter's tail sinks lower. Water closes over the last window. Isaiah swims toward Ghost and takes hold of the harness at his shoulders. "Listen to me," he says, bringing his face close to the dog's wet head. "You found him. He is safe." Ghost looks past him toward the boat. Owen raises one trembling hand. "I am here, buddy." The dog's body softens slightly, but the beacon continues beneath the surface. Its pulse travels through the water like a distant call. Ghost turns again. Isaiah tightens his grip. For a moment, he is no longer in the Atlantic. He is years in the past, standing on another rescue craft, while Caleb remains somewhere below. He remembers the order to withdraw. He remembers the empty space beside him afterward. Most of all, he remembers believing that leaving was the same as abandoning. "This is different," Isaiah whispers. He does not know whether he is speaking to Ghost or to himself. We do not have to follow every sound into the dark. The helicopter begins its final descent. The tail slips beneath the waves, and the emergency lights fade from red to a faint orange glow. Then they disappear. The beacon becomes softer. Ghost watches the place where the aircraft vanished. Rain settles across the water, smoothing the foam into long gray lines. Isaiah keeps one hand on the dog's harness. "Come home," he says. Ghost turns toward him. Slowly, he allows Isaiah to guide him toward the boat. Marcus reaches down first, securing Isaiah's arm. Nolan takes Ghost beneath the chest and lifts him over the side. The dog lands beside Owen, shaking from cold and exhaustion. Owen places both hands against Ghost's wet face. "You heard me," he says. Ghost leans forward and presses his nose against Owen's chest, listening to the steady beat beneath the blanket. Only then does he lower his head. Isaiah climbs into the boat and kneels beside them. For one quiet moment, no one speaks. The storm continues. The sea remains dark. But 4 living souls are moving away from the place where one of them had almost been forgotten. By the time the inflatable boat reaches the rescue vessel, the rain has softened to a cold mist, but the wind still moves hard across the deck. Hands reach down from above. Owen is lifted first, wrapped in a thermal blanket and guided toward the medical station. Ghost tries to follow him, but his legs fail beneath him the moment he stands. Isaiah catches the dog before he slips against the wet floor. The white coat that once seemed bright against the storm is now heavy and dark with seawater. Ghost's breathing is shallow. His amber eyes remain open, but they no longer track every movement around him. "Medical bay," Isaiah says. His voice is calm, yet something beneath it has begun to fracture. Marcus helps lift Ghost onto a canvas stretcher. The silver tag rests against the dog's chest, still moving faintly with each breath. Inside the vessel, the air smells of antiseptic, damp uniforms, and hot electrical wiring. The narrow passageways tremble with the rhythm of the engines. Crew members step aside as Isaiah and Marcus carry Ghost through. At the medical bay door, Navy corpsman Rachel Donovan is waiting with warmed blankets and oxygen equipment. She is in her early 40s, steady-eyed, and known for speaking only when words are useful. She kneels beside Ghost and places 2 fingers beneath his jaw. His pulse is weak. Isaiah crouches close. He was in the water too long. Rachel does not answer. She covers Ghost with heated pads, fits a small oxygen mask over his muzzle, and begins checking his temperature. The number on the monitor falls below what she wants to see. "We need to warm him slowly," she says. "Too fast can make things worse." Isaiah nods, though he barely hears her. He keeps one hand against Ghost's neck, feeling for the smallest sign of strength. Across the room, Owen lies on another cot while a corpsman listens to his lungs. His face has regained some color, but his eyes remain fixed on the dog. Is he going to be all right? Owen asks. Rachel glances toward him, then back to Ghost. He is still with us. It is not a promise. Everyone in the room understands that. The rescue vessel turns toward shore, 18 miles away. Outside, the storm begins to loosen its grip, but inside the medical bay time narrows to the rise and fall of one tired chest. Isaiah sits on the floor beside the stretcher. Water drips from his sleeves and gathers beneath his boots. Marcus offers him a blanket. Isaiah does not take it. His attention remains on Ghost. The dog's ears lie flat. His body gives one faint shiver, then becomes still again. "Come on," Isaiah whispers. "You have done your part." Owen turns his head toward them. "He came because of the knocks." Isaiah looks up. "What do you mean?" Owen swallows before speaking. "When the cabin started filling, I remembered him at the flight line. The way he reacted when I tapped the equipment case. I did not know if he could hear me through the water, but I had nothing else. His voice grows quieter. So I kept doing it. 3 times. Then I waited. Then 3 more. Isaiah looks at the silver tag beneath the edge of the blanket. The old mystery is no longer a mystery. Caleb had trained Ghost to recognize the signal for a trapped person, someone conscious enough to knock, but unable to call out. A simple pattern. 3 sounds. A pause. 3 more. Not a command of obedience. A request for mercy. Isaiah closes his eyes. He can almost hear Caleb explaining it in that patient voice of his, saying that the best rescue dogs are not trained only to follow orders. They are trained to notice the people everyone else misses. Rachel adjusts the oxygen flow. Ghost's pulse remains faint. "Talk to him," she says. Isaiah opens his eyes. Does that help? Sometimes familiar voices give them something to hold on to. Isaiah leans closer. For a moment, no words come. He has spent years speaking to Ghost through commands, short phrases, and the quiet language of routines. Sit. Stay. Search. Home. None of those words feel large enough now. "Caleb used to say you were stubborn," Isaiah says softly. Ghost does not move. "He said you never left a job unfinished. I thought that was training. I know better now." The vessel rolls gently beneath them. Rain whispers against the outer wall. "You found Owen. You brought me back up. You stayed when I could not free myself." Isaiah's thumb rests against the wet fur below Ghost's ear. "The mission is over. You can rest. But you cannot leave." Owen watches from the other cot, silent now. Marcus stands near the doorway with his cap in both hands. Even Rachel pauses for half a second before checking the monitor again. Ghost's breathing falters. One shallow breath. A long pause. Another, weaker than the first. Isaiah feels the old fear return, colder than the ocean. It is the fear of standing close enough to help and still being too late. The monitor gives a soft warning tone. Rachel moves quickly, checking the mask and rubbing warmth into Ghost's chest. Isaiah reaches for the silver tag. He lifts it between his fingers and taps it gently against the metal edge of the stretcher. Once, twice, 3 times. The sound is small inside the medical bay. He waits. Then he taps 3 more. Ghost's ear twitches. No one speaks. Isaiah leans closer. "That is for you now," he whispers. "Someone is still looking for you." The dog's front paw shifts beneath the blanket. His breath returns in a deeper, uneven pull. Rachel looks at the monitor. The pulse remains weak, but it has begun to climb. Owen lets out a breath that is almost a laugh and almost a prayer. Isaiah lowers his forehead against Ghost's head. Outside, the first thin line of morning appears beneath the clouds, pale and quiet over the Atlantic. Inside the medical bay, the white dog opens his eyes just enough to find Isaiah beside him. Ghost's eyes remain open for only a few seconds, but it is enough. Isaiah sees recognition return in them, faint at first, then steady. The dog does not lift his head. He does not try to stand. He simply looks at Isaiah, as if confirming that the voice beside him is real. Rachel watches the monitor and lowers the oxygen flow by a small measure. "His heart rate is improving," she says. "That does not mean we are clear yet." Isaiah nods. Hope is dangerous when it arrives too early, but this time he lets a small part of it stay. The rescue vessel reaches the military pier shortly after sunrise. The storm has moved east, leaving behind a washed-out sky and a sea still restless from the night. An ambulance waits near the dock. So does a veterinary response vehicle from Camp Lejeune, its rear doors already open. Owen is carried out first. He refuses to leave until he sees Ghost moved safely from the vessel. Wrapped in heated blankets, the white German shepherd lies on the stretcher with the silver tag resting near his chest. Isaiah walks beside him, one hand never leaving the edge of the canvas. The pier smells of diesel, wet rope, and cold morning air. Marines stand back as they pass. No one salutes. No one speaks. Some moments are too fragile for ceremony. Dr. Hannah Cole meets them beside the veterinary vehicle. She is a civilian veterinarian contracted by the base, a calm woman in her late 30s with dark hair tied beneath a navy cap. She checks Ghost's gums, listens to his lungs, and studies the readings Rachel gives her. We will take him to the base clinic, Hannah says. Possible cold water complications. Possible fluid in the lungs. We need imaging and constant monitoring. Isaiah moves toward the vehicle. Hannah raises one hand. You need medical attention too. I am fine. That is what every Marine says before someone proves otherwise. Isaiah looks at Ghost. The dog's eyes are closed again. I am going with him. Hannah studies Isaiah's face, then steps aside. Sit in the back and stay out of my way. The doors close. The vehicle pulls away from the pier, carrying them through the quiet roads of the base. Morning colors begin to gather over the pine trees. Gold touches the tops of the barracks. Steam rises from the pavement. Inside, machines hum softly while Hannah works. Isaiah sits near Ghost's head, still wearing damp clothes beneath a borrowed blanket. The silver tag shifts with the movement of the road. He reaches out and steadies it. For years, the tag had been the last piece of Caleb he could carry. Now it feels different. Less like a weight, more like a bridge. At the clinic, Ghost is taken into a treatment room. Isaiah is told to wait. He stands in the hallway for 3 minutes before sitting, then rises again after 30 seconds. The walls are painted a soft beige. A clock ticks above a bulletin board covered with photographs of retired military dogs. One picture shows Ghost beside Caleb on a training field, both facing the camera. Caleb is smiling. Ghost is younger, his white coat bright beneath the Carolina sun. Isaiah walks closer. Beneath the picture is a handwritten note from years earlier. No one gets left unheard. Isaiah reads it twice. He had forgotten Caleb used to say that. Not left behind. Not forgotten. Unheard. The words settle somewhere deeper than memory. A door opens behind him. Hannah steps into the hallway. Her expression is tired but not defeated. His temperature is coming up. His lungs are irritated, but he is breathing on his own. Isaiah lets out a breath slowly. Can I see him? For a few minutes. Ghost lies inside a warmed enclosure with a light blanket covering his body. His breathing is deeper now. An intravenous line runs to one front leg. Isaiah sits beside him and places his hand near the opening. Ghost turns his nose toward the familiar scent. You always were better at listening than the rest of us, Isaiah says. The dog's eyes open halfway. Isaiah looks at the silver tag, now hanging from the rail beside him while the collar dries. Caleb taught you the signal. He taught you to find people who could not call for help. His voice lowers. I thought I failed him because I could not bring him home. Maybe I failed because I stopped listening after he was gone. Ghost shifts closer to Isaiah's hand. Outside the room, footsteps approach. Owen stands in the doorway wearing dry clothes and a medical blanket around his shoulders. He has been cleared from the hospital section of the base, though exhaustion still shows in his face. Hannah begins to tell him visiting hours are over, but Isaiah gives a small nod. Owen enters slowly and stops beside the enclosure. For a moment, he cannot speak. Then he lifts one hand and taps 3 times against the metal rail. Ghost's ears move. Owen taps 3 more. The dog opens his eyes fully and looks at him. Owen presses his lips together, trying to steady his voice. You came for me. Ghost gives one quiet breath and rests his head near Isaiah's hand. Owen looks at the old photograph on the wall, then at the tag hanging beside Ghost. Was that his first handler? Isaiah nods. His name was Caleb Warren. Owen studies the picture. Then Caleb saved me too. Isaiah looks toward Ghost, whose eyes have closed again in peaceful exhaustion. Through the clinic window, sunlight finally breaks across the wet base, turning every drop on the glass into a point of gold. Ghost remains at the clinic for 4 days. Each morning begins with the same quiet rhythm. Hannah checks his lungs. Isaiah sits beside the enclosure. Owen arrives carrying coffee for everyone except himself, because he keeps forgetting where he sets the cup. By the 2nd day, Ghost can lift his head without trembling. By the 3rd, he stands for several seconds before lowering himself again. The 4th morning brings sunlight through the clinic windows, warm and clear after days of gray. Ghost takes 6 careful steps across the padded floor. Isaiah walks beside him without touching the harness. He lets the dog choose the pace. 1 step, then another. Ghost pauses near the doorway and looks back at Owen, who is waiting against the wall. Owen taps 3 times against the metal frame. Ghost's ears rise. Owen taps 3 more. The dog walks toward him. Not quickly, not with the strength he had before the storm. But he reaches Owen and rests his head against the young Marine's knee. Owen closes his eyes and places one hand lightly between Ghost's ears. No one in the room speaks. Hannah turns toward the window, giving them the privacy of silence. Isaiah watches the two of them and feels something old loosen inside his chest. For years, he had believed survival was a kind of debt. Every breath after Caleb's death had seemed borrowed from a man who never made it home. He had trained harder, slept less, accepted every difficult assignment, and called it duty. But beneath the discipline was a quieter truth. Isaiah had been trying to earn the right to remain alive. Ghost had never asked that of him. The dog had only stayed. Through restless nights. Through memories that returned with the sound of rain. Through mornings when Isaiah could not explain why getting out of bed felt heavier than carrying a full pack for 20 miles. Ghost had never demanded a reason. He had listened. That afternoon, Isaiah visits Caleb's old equipment locker at the K-9 training building. The room smells of canvas, leather, and the faint cedar oil used on storage shelves. Most of Caleb's belongings were sent to his family years earlier, but one small metal box remains in the back of the locker. Isaiah has seen it before and never opened it. The label bears Caleb's name in faded black marker. Inside are training notes, photographs, and a thin notebook with water stains along the edges. Isaiah sits on the floor and turns the pages carefully. Caleb's handwriting is compact and steady. Most entries are practical. Search patterns, weather conditions, response times, notes about Ghost's diet and behavior. Then Isaiah finds a page marked with 3 small circles in the margin. Beneath them, Caleb had written that Ghost responded more strongly to patterned sound than to shouted commands in low visibility. 3 knocks meant a conscious survivor. 3 more meant the survivor was still waiting. Caleb had added one final sentence. A dog cannot promise rescue, but he can promise that someone has heard you. Isaiah reads the line until the words blur. He closes the notebook and rests both hands over it. The room is quiet except for the distant sound of training whistles outside. You knew, Isaiah says softly. He is not sure whether he is speaking to Caleb, Ghost, or the part of himself that has remained trapped for years. You knew somebody might need that signal one day. A shadow appears in the doorway. Marcus stands there holding 2 paper cups. Hannah said I would find you here. Isaiah accepts one. The coffee is too hot, but he drinks it anyway. Marcus looks at the open box. Anything important? Isaiah holds up the notebook. Everything. They sit in silence for a while. Marines are often better at sharing silence than explaining grief. Marcus finally asks, You still think you left Caleb behind? Isaiah looks down at the page. I followed the order. That was not my question. Outside, a dog barks twice across the training field. Isaiah takes a slow breath. I think part of me stayed in that water with him. Marcus nods, as though he has been waiting years to hear the truth spoken plainly. Then maybe Ghost did more than save Owen. Isaiah looks toward the clinic building across the base. Through the afternoon light, he can see the small window where Ghost is resting. Maybe he came back for both of us. 2 weeks later, Ghost is cleared for limited duty. His first walk outside is slow. The autumn air is cool, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth. Isaiah holds the leash loosely. Owen walks on the other side, still favoring one shoulder, but smiling more easily now. They pass the flight line where the 3 of them first met. Near the equipment bay, Owen stops beside the same metal case he had carried that morning. He looks at Isaiah. Isaiah nods. Owen taps the latch 3 times. Ghost turns toward him. Owen waits, then taps 3 more. This time, Ghost does not rush forward. He looks first at Owen, then at Isaiah, as if checking whether anyone is still lost. Isaiah kneels and fastens Caleb's silver tag back onto the dry collar. The metal catches the afternoon sun. Nobody this time, Isaiah says. Ghost leans into his hand. A transport helicopter passes far overhead, its sound deep but distant. Isaiah feels the old memory rise, but it does not pull him under. He remains where he is, one hand on Ghost's white fur, Owen standing beside them, the earth solid beneath all 3. 3 months later, the Atlantic is calm enough to hold the morning sky without breaking it. A pale blue light spreads across the water beyond Camp Lejeune, and the wind carries only the clean scent of salt, marsh grass, and sun-warmed wood from the old training pier. Isaiah stands near the end of the dock with Ghost beside him. The white German shepherd has regained his strength. His coat shines again, thick and bright in the early light, and the silver tag at his collar moves gently whenever he turns his head. Owen waits a few feet away, both hands resting on the rail. He has returned to full duty, though he still pauses whenever he hears metal shift beneath deep water. Some memories do not disappear. They learn to sit quietly beside a person instead of standing in the way. Marcus and Hannah remain farther back, giving the three of them room. There is no ceremony, no band, no row of uniforms. Isaiah asked for none of it. The official commendations have already been written. Owen received recognition for remaining calm inside the aircraft. Nolan and Marcus were praised for their rescue work. Ghost was given a polished medal that now rests in a wooden case at the K9 unit. Isaiah accepted the honors because refusing them would have embarrassed the people who meant well, but he knew the truth. None of them had entered the water for a medal. They had gone because someone was still waiting. Owen looks out toward the place where the helicopter went down, far beyond the visible line of the shore. Salvage crews recovered most of the aircraft weeks earlier. The damaged frame now sits in a secure hangar, drained of seawater and silence. The small section of wall where Owen made the signal was removed for inspection. He asked to see it once. When he stood beside it, he placed his hand over the marks his knuckles had left in the paint. Then he walked away without speaking. Today, he carries no fear in his posture, only gratitude too large to express easily. I used to think rescue meant somebody pulling you out, Owen says. Isaiah keeps his eyes on the horizon. Sometimes it does. I think sometimes it means somebody believes you are still there. Ghost lifts his head at the sound of Owen's voice. Isaiah looks down at him. He believed it before any of us did. Owen smiles. He heard what we missed. A gull circles above the pier and cries into the open air. The sound fades over the water. For a while, they stand without speaking. Isaiah feels the morning sun touch the side of his face. Years earlier, he could not look at the ocean without seeing the place where Caleb disappeared. Every wave had seemed to carry an accusation. Every stretch of gray water had reminded him of an order he obeyed and a friend he could not bring home. But the sea before him now is only the sea. Wide, cold, beautiful, unforgiving, perhaps, but not cruel. It holds what has happened without deciding what it means. That choice belongs to the living. Isaiah reaches into his jacket and removes Caleb's training notebook. The cover is worn, the pages softened by years of handling. He opens to the line he has read almost every day since finding it. A dog cannot promise rescue, but he can promise that someone has heard you. Owen reads the sentence over his shoulder. That sounds like him. Caleb. Ghost. Isaiah closes the notebook. Maybe both. He kneels beside the dog and adjusts the collar where the silver tag rests. Ghost watches his hands, calm and patient. Isaiah remembers the first morning they met, when neither of them knew what to do with the grief they shared. He had thought he was giving Caleb's tag back to the dog. Now he understands that Ghost had been carrying it for Isaiah too. A memory should not be a chain. It should be a light strong enough to show the way home. Owen steps toward the rail. He raises one hand and taps the weathered wood 3 times. The sound is soft. Ghost's ears rise. Owen waits, then taps 3 more. For an instant, the old signal hangs between them. Ghost looks toward the water. Then he turns to Owen. He studies him carefully, listening to the rhythm of his breathing, watching the steadiness in his stance. Satisfied, he does not run. He does not search. He walks back to Isaiah and leans his shoulder against the Marine's leg. Isaiah rests one hand on the dog's back. Owen gives a quiet laugh. I guess he knows I am safe. He always checks. Marcus approaches from behind and stops near the end of the pier. Transport leaves in 20 minutes. Owen nods. He has been reassigned to an aviation safety unit in California, where he will help train crews in emergency communication. The 3-knock signal is now part of a new rescue procedure for trapped personnel. Simple, clear, easy to remember when fear takes everything else. Caleb's lesson will travel to places he never saw. Owen crouches beside Ghost. I owe you more than I can ever give back. The dog touches his nose to Owen's hand. Isaiah watches, understanding that loyalty never asks for repayment. It only asks that the life returned to you be used with care. Owen stands and offers Isaiah his hand. Isaiah takes it, then pulls him into a brief embrace. No speech is needed. When Owen walks away with Marcus, he looks back once. Ghost remains beside Isaiah. The sun climbs higher, turning the water gold along the edges. Isaiah opens Caleb's notebook one final time, then closes it and slips it safely inside his jacket. He looks toward the horizon, no longer searching for what was lost beneath it. Ready to go home? He asks. Ghost looks up at him, amber eyes clear and peaceful. Isaiah turns from the ocean. The dog follows at his side, the silver tag making one small sound with each step, not like a warning now, but like a promise still being kept.